Hello everyone, my name is Jorge Diaz, President and Founder of Larry Jacob Internet Marketing and an Infusionsoft Certified Consultant. I'm here with another episode of Defining Infusionsoft Success. This week my guest is Mark Garrett. Mark and I met on the Facebook forums for partners, and we were chatting back and forth for different things, and he pointed out that he has an add-on to EverWebinar that we're going to talk about because it's kind of like it fits a niche market that isn't being served, and he came up with a solution. So Mark, thank you very much for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me, George. This is a great opportunity. I appreciate the opportunity.
Cool. So, to get started, just tell us a little bit about yourself. A lot of the folks that we talk to tell us that, they were doing consulting and a customer needed something, and I think that kind of, fits a little bit of how you got into this.
Absolutely. It's funny how sometimes these opportunities present themselves. So, long-time Infusionsoft user, almost 8 years now going on, and also a ICC, so fully certified. I've been working with clients now pretty much full-time for the last 6 years. And all the way, I always look for additional solutions to help increase the functionality of Infusionsoft. So there's a lot of different apps in the marketplace that service great needs, and if you're out there looking for them, there's some great tools, and there's great communities around those tools. And one of my clients was doing a lot of work with webinars, and I've done a lot of work using the Plus This with the GoToWebinar integration, and it works fantastic. And I've gotten involved with some clients that also use WebinarJam and the EverWebinar, the Evergreen solution. And one of the challenges was that trying to do one thing that Plus This did great, which was be able to bring over the attendee link so that you can keep everything inside Infusionsoft. Okay. And so I talked to Bryce and the guys over there, and it really wasn't on their roadmap. And so we said, hey, listen, we're going to go ahead and do something about it and come up with a very niche solution. So
right, and just by the way, and just to clarify, so he talked to Bryce, who's been on this program a couple times. Bryce is one of the sales guys, or one of the marketing guys over at Plus This, just so that everybody sees the context. So he reached out to Plus This and said, hey, why am I going to build something if you guys have it on your roadmap? And you found out that they didn't, right?
That's correct. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think one of the things I love about the community is that we're always open, we're always working together, and we're trying to solve problems. And if there's a solved problem to be solved, then let's go ahead and do it, and let's do it the best way that it works for the clients in the marketplace. So right.
So and now I've been a long time Evergreen business solution user. I mean, going back 4 or 5 years, and so EverWebinar and WebinarJam are like the next generation of Mike Filsaime and the other guy's tool.
Yep,
so
that's correct.
So the problem is, if I want to register and have Infusionsoft be able to send out messages and know how to get people in it, you have to send them their unique link, right? So that they can, and which is something that Bryce and Plus This does for GoToWebinar.
Correct. Yeah. So there's really two problems that people don't realize. Number one is, and this is the traditional way that people will do this, they'll, assuming that they're using WebinarJam or EverWebinar, most people will send an email out through Infusionsoft with a link to the registration form.
Okay, that's step one, right?
That's step one. Then now, me as the person who's being invited, I now have to open it up, fill out the form, put my name, my email address, cell phone number, whatever, and then all the communication that I receive as the attendee comes from WebinarJam or EverWebinar. Now, a couple of things about that. If we're all Infusionsoft people here, so we love the data and the analytics that come out of this. So, especially if you're using some of the great analytical tools that are out there, like the guys over at Graphly, or what's the other webinar you guys use?
Yeah, Wicked Reports is another one.
Wicked Reports. Those are two great tools to do the analytics. So if you want to see who's opening up your emails, when are they opening up your emails, to look at the response rates of your webinars, this is one of the critical things that you need to do. But with the WebinarJam EverWebinar tool, all of the communication has to go through the WebinarJam email provider, because one of the key things that you want to be able to do is send the recipient their their unique URL so we can track them. Now, when I started looking into this, everyone said, hey, Mark, they've got the deep dive integration, which is fantastic. And if you haven't looked at the deep dive integration, it's something you really should be doing, because you can see who logged on, who logged off, how long they were in there. So many minutes. Yeah, because let's say we're looking at this video, and let's say it's 20 minutes. We want to know, did somebody show up? Did they show up on time? And did they pass, say, the 10-minute mark, the 15-minute mark?
Yeah. Did they stick? Did they stick around long enough to get to the call to action?
That's correct, exactly. And just for the record, there's no call to action here. We're just doing information.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but we could add one and make some money, right?
Absolutely, it's all about making money.
We'll change our format.
Whatever you want to do, I'll follow your lead, buddy. So the key thing with that is, with inside Infusionsoft, we were not able to, before now, to get that link that was in WebinarJam and EverWebinar into Infusionsoft. So that's what we did. And I went out looking, quite frankly, for a programmer to help me be able to solve this problem. And, it was what seemed to be somewhat of an interesting and simple opportunity became almost 100 hours of development time to get it up and running and get a solution so that you could set this up. And now it does multiple events, and we've even been able to push it out to Aweber, Active Campaigns, Go to Webinar, not Go to Webinar, Get Response, and a couple other.
Oh wow! Okay, so you're looking to support other platforms.
Absolutely, yeah. Because the WebinarJam Studio, if we look at the marketplace, and this is kind of where these niching elements fit, is GoToWebinar it's an expensive product. It's a great product, don't get me wrong, but it's an expensive product. A lot of people like the WebinarJam because of some of the features that you can use, specifically some of the embedding links and clicking, the automatic update to YouTube to post the webinars, all that kind of stuff. So they love WebinarJam and EverWebinar for that specific solution.
Okay.
So they're going to stay with it, but they want the functionality that of having that link inside their Infusionsoft app to be able to push that out. So I've developed a couple of case use scenarios for this, and if you have any questions, we can go through a few of those if you'd like.
Yeah. So you haven't messed with the registration. I still have to use their registration box?
No. I've stripped that all away.
Oh, okay.
As far as the registers now, so there's really two ways that you can. Well, I guess technically three, but let's look at the two most common ways to register. So let's look at the first use case where you're putting an ad out there on Facebook or wherever it is, and you're driving somebody to a landing page. The old way is that you have to send them to a WebinarJam landing page, or if they were using lead pages or ClickFunnels or something like that, they would set up and use that integrated web form. Now, what was not happening is that person was not going from WebinarJam into Infusionsoft. Okay? And specifically the link, the custom link, so that now we can market to them inside Infusionsoft.
Right, and do the indoctrination, remind them that it's coming, show them the value.
That's correct.
Okay, so I can now use my own form, and that interface is over with WebinarJam?
That's correct. So in essence, what happens is we have a co-reg event happening. So when you fill out one form, it simultaneously goes into WebinarJam and it goes into Infusionsoft. The second thing that happens is then we extract through API the URL, the unique URL for that event, for that person, and put that also into Infusionsoft.
Okay, so it's in a custom field, right? So it's in Infusionsoft in a custom field, which is the way that Plus This does it for WebinarJam for GoToWebinar.
Correct.
But okay, so now this is the consultant in me. So I no longer am stuck with only the registration feature that's produced by EverWebinar.
Correct.
Okay, so you've got a customer out of me, because that thing is, I want to say 5 years ago it was very novel. It was actually, nice, but now, given responsive designs and stuff, it's kind of like, it's dated. So okay, so very good.
One of the things, George, is I'm always looking at analytics. So let's look at the case where I have, let's say I've got 500 people on my list, And I'll just do kind of a use case scenario. And this is kind of normal for a lot of my clients that I work with. So they've got 500 people on their list, okay? And let's say they get 25% click-through. So 125 people on their list actually saw the email, it went to the web form, okay? Now, of the people that took that step, now they've got to go and type all their information into the WebinarJam web form, right? Now, we're going to lose percentages there. So any idea kind of what percentage people typically drop out at? Like maybe a 10%, 15%?
I don't know, but I mean, I'm sure it's high because people go, I don't really want to do it or whatever.
Yeah, my research and working with clients, we're about 45 to 50%. So I've got a list of 500 people, 5,000 people, whatever the number is. So let's just use 500, okay? 125 people typically we're going to click through at a 25% click-through rate. Then about 50% of those people are going to actually fill out the form because we've lost them, right? There's that click loss.
Right.
So now I've got 62% or 62 people actually of my 500 that showed up. And then typically, we get typically about a 50% response rate when we do proper indoctrination, sequencing, and follow-up reminders. So out of a list of 500 people, I might get 30 people showing up.
Which let me tell you, would be super. I mean, with my experience, I mean, that people just, I got busy, I went to get a cup of coffee, I forgot. I mean, people's apathy after they've signed up for something they thought was important.
That's exactly it, George. One of the things that now we can do, here's another use case, is, so inside Infusionsoft, let's look at using something like a click link tool. So I send you out an email saying, hey, George, I got this really awesome webinar coming up. We're talking about strategies on Infusionsoft, okay? And click here to register for the webinar. Now, what that will now do is click there, automatically registers them in WebinarJam, automatically then sends you an email saying, hey, you're registered, here's your custom URL to click on, and oh, by the way, here's a referral link to send your friends if they want to show up.
Nice.
So now, that 50% drop-off rate from click to fill out the form disappears. So I get them the moment that they're like, yeah, that's something I want to go do. Now, I leave it up to my indoctrination sequence to follow through and reminders to bring them to. So what we see is now we're seeing of that 125 people that actually clicked and said yes, we're seeing somewhere in the neighborhood of about 65 of those people showing up. So it kind of now we're looking at 10% of my original list is actually showing up on the webinar. And again, from a rates perspective, that's actually quite good. Scale that up. If you got 1,000 people, you got 100 people on your webinar. That's actually a lot of people. That's quite good. So that's one of the key things that we've been able to do. So it's simple, it's elegant, not complicated, and all we simply do is just look at this. Let me register you, either use an Infusionsoft web form, post it on your website, do whatever you're going to do, and then we send the data off to WebinarJam. It registers them, creates a unique URL, pushes that back into Infusionsoft into a custom field. Mm-hmm. I can now send an email with that merge field in, saying, hey, you're signed up for the 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this date. Here's your unique URL. Click here, and away we go. And then we can start the follow-up sequence.
Yeah,
and that's it. Really simple.
Yeah. Now let me ask you: if I had set up a EverWebinar Evergreen where, I've got Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 and at 5 in the evening, can you simulate that as well through your?
Absolutely.
Wow. See, that's a major challenge. I'm sure that there was plenty of the 100 hours that went into that baby.
Yeah. So that's the thing, right? With GoToWebinar, you typically only have one or two. WebinarJam and specifically EverWebinar, you're going to have these ongoing replays, so you can pick a date in 2 or 3 times. So you might have, for one specific event, you might have 4 different sequences. So if you're doing the form, you can create a drop-down where the user can select the date and the time,
right,
identical to the fields and the methodology that EverWebinar is using, or even WebinarJam is using. And then if you're doing a specific click here, you can set up specific click link goals for just one of those dates. So it gives the user complete the inside Infusionsoft to duplicate and replicate everything that they were doing in WebinarJam or EverWebinar.
Right. So, or even, you could even set up radio buttons. Here's the next 5 of these that are available, right?
Absolutely.
Nice.
And then that radio button then does a click link goal, or actually, technically, I guess it would be a tag goal through to the next step in the next phase. Totally, you can do all that. Gives you complete flexibility.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very
So
nice.
the biggest thing I like is the one-click registration, and that way, if you're already in your list, click here, register, bang, and let's go.
No, right. I know who you are. Why make you go through any trouble?
Well, that's exactly it, right? Why even send them to a form?
Well, now that, but if people are getting it on their phone, which is
Right.
a big amount, that's huge.
Well, then again, we're trying to make it seamless for the user to be able to get online and register for the webinar. Now it's up to the Infusionite to write good copy to entice them to come on.
Right.
But once that's done, they actually say, yeah, I want to click, then we can do that. And it's really, for the 14,000 people that are using they're using WebinarJam and EverWebinar, I think this is going to be a really good tool and good solution.
Yeah, definitely a nice add-on. Well, gosh, thanks for sharing that. There's a lot of details you shared with us. Hey, if anybody wants to reach out to you and learn more about this, how do they find you?
Yeah, so the website is it's everjamapp.com.
So app.com?
Yeah, app.com, yeah. And you can get me at mark@everjamapp.com. So everjamapp.com.
Right. We'll publish that with this video so people can get right at it. I tell you what,
those are things also that when people sign up, if they want to, if they actually go ahead, it's a scale pricing, so it starts off very cheap and very simple. On a monthly subscription, they can cancel whenever, so it's not a big upfront cost or anything like that. And what we also do is there's a series of within the deep dive elements. I think just because you've got somebody on your webinar, there's so much data to collect and understand after the webinar event. So what we've done is we've built out a couple of campaigns that people can also purchase, or they can do follow some videos and do it themselves as well. So
Very
I'll
nice.
give you some links on that too. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. My head's kind of spinning now because I'm going, gosh, this is something.
Sure it is.
I know I've gotten requests for this, and I'm saying, nah, you can't do that. So I'm glad someone's addressed this.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, it's all the credit. All the credit goes to Jason. He's the brains behind it. I had the idea, and there was the challenge, and together we made it work. So Jason's made it work. It's in the setup side of things. We use all the from a technical perspective. It's all the OAuth. So it's really simple to register. Just log onto your Infusionsoft account, pulls in your API stuff automatically. So it's very, very easy to set up and install.
Cool. Well, hey, thank you for taking time out of your busy day. I appreciate you joining me, and we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity, and happy webinar jamming out there. And if anybody needs any help with that, let us know. We're here to solve the problem.
Okay. Take care.
Thanks, George. Have yourself a great day.